Vicky Donor was a film that no one wanted to touch. Like I said, my studio didn't want to touch Vicky Donor, but we made it, and we made it with a lot of conviction. The challenge I've faced is how do you kind of stay true to what really happened and still make the film commercial enough and entertaining enough for people to enjoy it. I'm not right wing, I'm not left wing. I'm very apolitical in my views. I probably call myself a socialist capitalist. The Madras Cafe, before I went in for the film wasn't even released. My studio had asked me that now that this film is going to fail, how are we going to kind of compensate for it? Commercial films that you wonder sometimes how are they crossing those numbers, and you're like, wow, this is great. America being an enemy is dangerous. America being a friend is fatal.
We're very happy to have actor, producer John Abraham as guest for Idea Exchange. And everybody's really been looking forward to hearing you today.
Sure.
So, John, you made your debut in films in 2003, I think.
Correct.
And that's been like over 2 decades now. So, but maybe we can start with your new film that's dropping on Z5, I think, next week.
Yep.
Yeah, which is Tehran. So, it sounds really topical with all that's played out between Israel and Iran. So, could you talk a bit about that connect?
To start off with, I was offered this film, Tehran, and can I take you all back a wee bit so we get some context to what we're speaking about and where we're going with this? I started my career in 2003, just to encapsulate where I come from and what I've been doing. My first film was a film called Jism, and then I went on to do films that primarily were fun. Some of them not so fun in different ways. But the film that really influenced me when I got into the industry, and way before I got into the industry, was a film called Schindler's List, and that stayed with me for very, very long, for days, for 5, 6 days. I just held on to that film, and I wondered why the Jews were, ostracized, and why the Holocaust really happened. And I decided that when I get into films, at least in my head, these were the films that I wanted to do. Well, I got into films. I did a film called Jism, which means the body. Being a marketing person, I realized it was about the body. I positioned myself, like they say, in probably the smartest way and started selling what sells the most. And at some point, I decided in my life that I need to change this positioning. And I need to do something that I probably resonated with a lot more. And that's when I became a producer. My first film was a film called Vicky Donor, where at that point of time, the studio did not have faith in the film at all. And well, he hasn't paid me my money, so I'm sure he still doesn't have faith. But that's besides the point. And the film released with a wonderful boy called Ayushman, who I think is a gift to this industry. Such a wonderful, thank you, such a wonderful boy. And then I did films like Madras Cafe, because, like I always say this, I woke up one morning with a drop of water on my face, and I looked up and my mom was crying, and I said, "What happened?" And she said, "Rajiv Gandhi was killed last night." And then in those days, we had the Illustrated Weekly, and I saw the cover with his face, just pulled over, and the white kurta and the Lotto shoes, and the image impacted me. And of course, and the brilliant director that Shajit Sarkar is, all credit to him. We made a film called Madras Cafe, which was incidentally actually our first film before Vicky Donor. And then Vicky Donor happened in the midst of us writing Madras Cafe. And Madras Cafe was the next film, and everybody said, make a part 2 of Vicky Donor. And I said, how many more children? This can't have a part 2. So then, so on and so forth, we went to make films like Parmanu, Bartla House, and most recently, The Diplomat. And that's the space I've kind of dwelled in, because that's a space that has always interested me. The challenge I've faced is how do you kind of stay true to what really happened and still make the film commercial enough and entertaining enough for people to enjoy it. And for a person who critiques, and for a general audience that watches, we walk a very thin line where you could find the film extremely boring and documentish, or you could find the film like a flight of fancy and say this is so far removed from what really happened. So for us and for me, and my job as a producer is trying to stay true to what really transpired, at the same time give the audience an opportunity to kind of get entertained, and tell a younger audience primarily, like, hey, listen, this is what happened in India, this is interesting, and this is what makes India a wonderful place and an interesting place, and this is how we tell our stories. So that is my journey. Coming to Tehran, Tehran came to me, typically good good guy India, bad guy Iran. And I said, hey, wait a second. So my father's a Malayali. My grandfather from my mother's side, my mother's father came down from Iran. So obviously I said, Iran can't look so bad, okay? There has to be something nice about this country, you know? So we wrote a story where, it is about Iran, Israel, India, and how India was affected by this whole Iran-Israel conflict. And of course, you had another player in Palestine in the film, and not topically so, because this film was made way before the war. The war happened now, and we said this is a very interesting premise, and how do we project this film? So we kept this film very neutral. We kept this film very true to what actually happened, and it's not your typical patriotic film. It is not. It shows the good and bad that happened, that exists with this country, which we're very scared today of, kind of in a hyper political atmosphere. You really don't want to talk about things. But we've been smart, and in a diplomatic way, we've kind of got our message through. And here we are. I'm sitting with you guys on Tehran.
So, John, as you said, there's also a very thin line between patriotism and jingoism, and many films have crossed it. So, are you conscious of that? Because
Yeah.
especially you've done lots of movies in the recent past where you're playing an officer. So, is that a worry with you?
Yeah, totally. I think what's worrisome for me is that in the present political climate, when you make films that aren't really true to the grain of what's really secular, and they find a massive audience, that gets you thinking and worried. I'm not saying they're good or bad films; they're impactful films, which is why they worked. But then you wonder what your responsibilities as a producer, as a filmmaker, as an actor. And I've chosen to take the path that's probably uh, very real. I've chosen to take the path that's I want to put this on record. I'm not right wing. I'm not left wing. I'm very apolitical in my views. I probably call myself a socialist capitalist. To put it very very rightly. So I want to stick to the path that actually is true and spoken for. Like in our film, for example, I don't think India is the good guy in our film. Without letting the cat out of the bag, India is not the good guy in our film. But we've made a film that's honest, and to the credit of the Ministry of External Affairs, because they saw this film. Because had they not seen this film, and this film wouldn't have seen the light of day. Because I do my films only for the big screen. I don't do digital films. But we had to make a very well-informed decision. Either we don't show this film at all and nip the rose in the bud, or show it to an audience and get it out somehow. So we finally managed, and thanks to Z5, they were brave enough to put their best foot forward and pick up this film.
So this was made for the theaters essentially.
Correct.
So, but it's kind of very topicality, perhaps went against it
Yeah.
because of what has happened.
Absolutely. So what I thought was the biggest advantage, see, no one wants war, but what I thought was the biggest advantage of this film was the Iran-Israel war. And that turned out to be my Achilles heel. So we couldn't release it. We wouldn't get bums on seats for this in theaters. I mean, internationally, they said, no way, you're not even coming to us. Forget this. This is too sensitive for us. But we found a release. I'm grateful to the team of Z. I'm grateful to you guys for actually giving me an audience to, make my point of view on this film. So I'm happy I'm here. And after a point, Devyani, it's about legacy, and it's about what you really want to do. And a film like Diplomat, when I did Diplomat, my studio had zero faith in the film. They said it's probably the worst thing we've seen. But I had faith in my director and what we wrote out. And we made the film and we saw moderate success. And unfortunately, today the same studio wants to do a Diplomat too. You know what I'm saying? So either they don't get the film or they don't understand the meaning of a franchise. So I had lost somewhere. So I think you have to just do films that you believe in, and you got to do what you got to do, and you've just got to do it right and make good films, or try and make good films at least.
You even learn Farsi for it?
Yeah, for about 6 months, I learned Farsi and Hebrew, um, and that's the risk we also ran. A lot of the film is in Farsi. I think the runtime of the film is about 1 hour 49 minutes. That's it, and we've got. And I'm speaking to a well-informed audience, so I can say this. We've got about 55 minutes of Farsi and Hebrew in the film. So, there's going to be a lot of subtitles in the film. But I think we've stayed true to the character of this film. So once you enter Tehran, you're obviously going to speak in that language. So we're very happy we did it. I'm very proud of the fact that we worked hard on this film.
John, you've been in the industry for what, 2 decades now.
Yeah.
Could you tell us a bit about what you think has really changed in the industry and also in you as an actor?
So I think you're better informed that what has really changed. I can't comment on what's really changed in the industry, but I can speak out myself. An actor becomes a prisoner of his own image. So you have a certain image when you get in. It's about action, and still is to a large extent. It's about probably, I wore yellow trunks in Dostana, I wore white trunks in Pathan. You know what I'm saying? So it's still about the trunks and the body, which I'm not apologetic about. I think it's cool. I would want to wear trunks again. No problem with that. But I also think that at the same time, you've got to do stuff that really, that you really leave back. You have to leave this place with something that's remotely credible. And so that's been my journey. My journey's been to get very serious about the roles I do, especially these roles, do workshops, get these little nuances right. Like in Diplomat, for example, there was a lot of effort in the restraint in the performance, learning how this character behaved, putting the right step forward. Just being very careful with what you do. There was no body shot, there was no action, there was nothing. But we managed to get our point across. And the biggest compliment that you receive is when your character tells you, your real life character tells you, you played my part down to the T. And that's the biggest reward you get. So me as an actor, I take my craft even more seriously. Me as an actor, I don't want to take my audiences for granted. Me as an actor, I want to improve every day. Me as an actor, I'm grateful that I'm here. So, but me as an actor also does very few interviews. And, for example, I'm speaking to you guys, I'm an August company, because I probably wouldn't want to speak to a lot of people, at least on a film like Tehran, because if you don't know the political climate and what's happening in the world, it's very difficult to have a conversation on Tehran, or on Madras Cafe, or in Parmanu, or on Batla House, but especially on a film like Tehran, which is why I'm happy that I'm here.
This is an area that really does interest you.
Oh yeah, totally. But like I said, the biggest challenge is how do you make this space interesting? How do you make it exciting? So I think Tehran is an international film out of India. If I have to just put it very simply, without sounding cliche about it, because of the language, it's a film that could explode on digital if marketed well. Could fly out through the roof, because it is an international film. Anybody can see it and resonate with it. And all our actors in Tehran, the Iranians are Iranians, the Israelis are Israelis. They've spoken in Hebrew, the Israelis. The Iranians have spoken in Farsi. The Indians have spoken in Hindi. Some of them have spoken in English, because you have the odd person here and there, but it's a very, very honest film, and we've not really deviated from the facts.
So I'll just ask you one question, John, and then
Sure.
open it up to
Sure.
I just want to ask you, there's so much debate these days about outsiders and insiders in the industry about nepotism, but you came as a rank outsider.
Yeah.
Though I think you had hit a question as your classmate. I read something.
Yeah. My classmate from junior KG.
Yeah. And Aditya Chopra was your.
My senior, yeah.
Yeah. So not.
And Abhishek was my junior, Ranbir was my junior, Tushar, Ekta, everybody, yeah. Same school.
Okay, maybe I take it back then.
No.
Rank outsider then. But how difficult was it to break? And you talk about your management background. Could you tell us a bit about what you did before you?
Yeah, so I wouldn't waste my. I use this word waste very thoughtfully. I wouldn't waste my time discussing the insider-outsider thing because we're done to death with it. So that's over and done with. There's no point wearing your struggle on your sleeve. But yeah, being a management student and being educated, like my father always told me, study, son, study. And I said, Dad, what's it in? Just study. But it made a difference because it at least gives you the power to understand what's right from the wrong. It gives you a broader spectrum to think, and it gives you visibility. It makes you not myopic. It makes you see beyond. And I think that's what education did with me. That's what marketing did with me. And of course, you also need to have certain value systems that are inculcated in you, which is why you choose to be seen or not seen in most places. And I think finally I'm doing what I'm doing, and then it's quite visible what I'm doing and out there. And credibility is very, very important to me, more than money, because I feel that's something that I'm a beggar for. I hold credibility very close to my heart, and I don't want to lose it. And that comes through in the kind of work you do. Like, for example, as a producer, I can't produce an adult comedy. Is it bad? No, it's not bad. But I can't produce it. I'm not equipped enough to make an adult comedy. I'm not. Someone asked me recently, you have the horror universe and you have the spy universe. And John, I mean, you around geopolitical stuff. What universe are you planning to have? And I said, listen, I'm the center of the universe. And I want to manifest the fact that if I can create and start a dialogue, then I become the center of that universe, and we create conversations and arguments and counter arguments around it, and that's what I want to do.
Shubhra, she's a film critic. Shubhra Gupta.
Hi, Shubhra. Hi, Shubhra. Hi.
I was about to say.
Please sit, Shubhra. Hi. Please sit. Okay.
Okay, I don't mind standing. You should maybe do more interviews because it's the first time I'm actually hearing you speak about points of view, which given the fact that I've been watching your films from the time you started and writing about them, so it's really interesting to see how you connect the dots because you talked about courage, you talked about secularism, you talked about so many of the points that are no longer in play.
Right.
It's really interesting. But I have two questions. One is that you started with just Jism, and then you did Kabul Express, which is two completely different kinds of films. One was coming out of the water with Bipasha, and the other one was, run in Afghanistan doing a Kabir Khan film. So my idea of looking at you as an actor was this completely like, you were actually looking at spectrum from one to the other.
Right.
And as a producer, you seem to have been an outlier. So, because you've chosen to embrace the kind of film that not too many people have.
Yeah.
So there is definitely an idea of, you talked about not wanting to produce an adult comedy, but you've acted in adult comedies, right? Houseful and all of that. So it's interesting. Two questions. One is that how do you, as a producer who's backing all kinds of films that possibly no other, maybe studio, maybe legacy filmmaker is, what are the things that you look for when you look back a movie? And when you're looking at an acting, because last few films have been very muscular, have been in the patriotic genre, maybe not jingoistic, but very much like Mera Bharat Mahan. How do you actually look at both these aspects?
Correct. So I'll try and address whatever you've asked in the best way I can, Shubhra. For one, I think, to encapsulate everything, I think my career is defined more by my failures than my successes. And that's what I believe. I believe the films that have stood out for me are the ones that have failed. be it water, be it a very remote success, a modest success in Kabul Express, be it no smoking, be it Madras Cafe, where Shubha, I don't know whether you know this, but Madras Cafe, before I went in for the film wasn't even released. My studio had asked me that now that this film is going to fail, how are we going to kind of compensate for it? So that's, and then even the Diplomat till the last, where they said, "इतनी वाहियात film हमने तो देखी नहीं है," So uh, I I kind of have understood that where I have a voice is where when I'm an outlier, when I make the kind of stuff I want to. In fact, Vicky Donor was a film that no one wanted to touch. Like I said, my studio didn't want to touch Vicky Donor, but we made it. And we made it with a lot of conviction. At that time, my studio didn't want to see who this new boy was. So I went with this poster around to different places saying, this boy is fantastic. He's talented. He's superb. And so you have to have faith in what you're doing, which is why, like I said, you've got to do what you've got to do. And if you're doing something that's different, you become an outlier. That's a byproduct of what you believe in. So that's one part of me. The other part of what you said was, yes, I do films that have a lot of action, that have a lot of testosterone. You fight, you break, you bang. You have a large audience for that. But what I am hoping for, Shubhra, is that through my films, you want to marry commerce with content. Somewhere you just want to get two of them together. Right now, they're two very parallel streets where there's a film that's so full of content. You say, oh, it's beautiful, 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 but you don't see commercial success. Then you see commercial films that you wonder sometimes how are they grossing those numbers, and you're like, wow, this is great. So I'm hoping that in the future, I make films that are commercial enough that have some basis of good content. And I'm talking about myself. I'm hoping I can put the two together. And yeah, I would have wanted to believe that most of the films I've done, I've made an honest attempt at doing something that's different. But most of them that I've made an honest attempt at doing have failed. And I take great pride in that, to the point where it's weird that if I see huge success in a particular film, it's very strange that I hope the next one fails. I'm like, it should fail, it should fail. This also can't work. There's something not right about life if this works. So I've kind of understood that my trajectory and my career has been a struggle, but I don't look at that like a point of victimization. I say that this is giving me great fillip to do the kind of stuff I want to do. And every time, Shubhra, I come with something new, I have to again tell people, hey, listen, this is different, but listen, it could work. Like the last case in point was the Diplomat, for whatever said and done, it did decent enough for the producer, the studio rather, not the producer, the studio, to think otherwise. Have I answered most of your questions?
Most of it.
Yeah, yeah.
Just a supplement, while you were talking, not too many people will remember a film that you've done called Viruddh.
Oh, I love that.
Which I really liked, and I
Love
liked your part in it
Yeah.
to the point that I still remember it
Yeah.
from back in the day. So is that something? You played the son of Sharmila and Amitabh Bachchan. I remember from that, and there was a very interesting texture to your part. The way it was written, I think it was Mahesh Mandre.
Correct.
So would you look at those kinds of very specific, not so much action but more emotion kind of roles now?
Yeah, exactly.
Going forward, given the fact that you are now sort of being associated with this kind of muscular, kind of macho hero kind of films now.
Yeah, I think it's at least in my head, Shubhra, if I may, I think it's the other way around, where yes, I was always associated with the muscular, macho image where you pick up bikes and you throw things around and you do crazy stuff. And in fact, I think after I became a producer, and then Shubhra, I'll tell you where I get this my feedback from. I get my feedback from when I travel on flights, because as actors, or at least I am very insulated from people. So when I travel on flights, the impression I get from an audience that sits next to me generally is that, we love the films that you're doing now. The stuff that you're doing now makes a lot more sense. It's sensible, it's nice. So when we see a John Abraham film, we expect something different. So there's an honest attempt to, like I said I want to. I Geopolitical stuff is something that's very close to my heart. But do I want to make films that are much more thought provoking? Yes, that's the idea. But does that mean I alienate and give up what has also worked for me? No, I won't. And I would never be apologetic about it. So you have to draw that balance and do both. But in the process of doing both, you shouldn't end up making a mess. That's the only thing. So I'm cognizant of that. Obviously, we don't know what works all the time. So, we try our best. But I hope I can manage to do that successfully.
Divya covers external affairs for us.
Oh, lovely.
Hi, John. Divya. So, I read you saying once that you have geopolitical anxiety. I think in this Trump era, maybe to some degree, we all have, especially those of us following the subject. But for you personally, where did this interest in geopolitics start from, and how did it become an anxiety or something that consumed you? Because all your films are coming out of geopolitical conflict now. What is what you're focusing on?
Yeah, so I mean, it's unfortunate that all my films are in that space, so that should change for one. Um, when I was young, my father made me read the editorial of the Times of India. There's a very famous, at least what my father asked me, Swaminathan Anklesariya. So I used to read his editorial, and I made it a habit. And after that, I kept reading, reading, reading. So I used to, in those days, read the newspaper from the first page to the last. And that is a habit my father inculcated in me. And from childhood, we were always drawn to watching the news, maybe the 8:40 Hindi news that happened at that point of time. There was no internet. With the advent of the internet, I kept, my interest in the geopolitical space kept growing. In fact, recently I did an interview with Oksana Boykov in Russia Today, and on the whole Russia-Ukraine conflict, and then the bureau called me and said, "How do you know so much about Russia?" So I think it's my Mallu roots of having some amount of Marxist, uh, not politically, okay. But I think it just adds to whatever I kind of enjoy indulging in. So I've always had this fondness for geopolitics. But after seeing in the film space, after seeing Schindler's List, because that's the first time where I really started thinking. I was like, wow, these are the films that should be made, is why I, as a producer and as an actor, but more so as a producer, I kind of am delving into that space and making a very honest attempt, A, with my craft, and B, with the kind of films I want to do in that space. So the space has always excited me, has and always will excite me.
You said there was some proposal to you to make Diplomat II. If ever there was a Diplomat II, have you thought of a character you would play this time? Because the first one was on JP Singh, who's our ambassador in Israel now.
So coincidentally, I mean, it's just a matter of coincidence. I've been developing a story on the students in Sumi, that were in Sumi, that were taken out of there in the war zone with the Ukraine conflict. So we've been writing some stuff. We've been trying to develop some stuff, but I don't know whether I'd make a Diplomat II, because I get this trend of franchises, but you can't force fit a franchise. So maybe a Diplomat II would be called a war zone. For example, I'm just hypothetically speaking, but just making twos if I did a 2 or a 3, it would be a force. Where it's an action franchise where you're really you're just going forth and you're like Shubhra said, showing your muscles and you're going in there. But everything can't be a 2. I don't know whether Diplomat merits a 2.
So I have 2 questions. The first is, you said that it was very difficult for you to get a big theatre release for Tehran and you had to settle for OTT. So when OTT came up, it came up as a complementary and an alternative platform for content-driven films, and should I say, as an enabling environment for freedom to interpret creatively the contemporary world around you. But now we see in OTT the same bigness of commercial cinema. It's tending to crowd that space out for such independent efforts. Do you feel that there has been a blurring of lines between OTT and the big screen and the economics of it? That's the first question I have. The second one was from again your answer that you have a fairly insulated existence as an actor. So, but you are also taking up some projects and championing some causes like the Wildlife Reserve in Telangana, for which you are actively written to the Chief Minister. You have also taken up the Northeast FC promoting football. So, are these in any way, do they keep you grounded, or are you just carving out a new path for yourselves when it comes to promoting these causes? These were my two questions.
Correct. Divya, thank you. So the first question, uh, difficult for me to answer. I don't know whether the lines are really blurred, but the way, and I'm speaking as a layman, I'm not an expert in this space because I make films and I don't know, I make films for the big screen. Okay. So I think the ones that are really going on the big screen now, the ones, the big scale films are the ones that are these barring Sayara that just happened right now, which is super normal success and is fantastic for them. You know, it's great. I think are the wars and the big ones of the world. You know, the rest of them are all going to OTT. So to answer your question, the lines are blurred a bit. Um, do we?
Shouldn't they have been different, really? Wouldn't that have made more sense, according to you?
Um, Not really, not really, because I mean, it's also a case of understanding a situation at a point of time. For example, Extraction, it's a massive film that came on OTT, but then they continued with two on OTT. They decided two could have come in the theater, but they continued with two on OTT, and it's got a budget of what, 200 million, 300 million, I don't know. So I think the lines are blurred. You have Apple TV coming out with big budget films that could have very well gone on the big screen and they come out on OTT. So I think it's a choice the producer, the studio, and the platform have made in an informed decision in conjunction with each other. So the lines are blurred. So if you ask me if there should be a demarcation in terms of budgets for a particular kind of film to come in the theaters, I don't know. I don't think so. That's my answer to your question. Secondly, on the animal front, yeah, I campaign the cause of animals across this country, and I'm going to continue to do so because I think they're voiceless and they need a voice, and some of us are doing it. Some of us mean well for that cause, and whether it's writing letters to chief ministers or whether it's uh, whatever it takes, I will do in my capacity. Because if there's a calling in my life, it's for animals. And without again offending any human being in the world, animals are very important to me. So uh, for me, that's very, very important. Secondly, football is, very passionate about football. And football is very popular in only four pockets in this country: Goa, Kerala, Calcutta, and the Northeast. I was given the opportunity to start this football team, but I realized that the greater goal is making sure that grassroots actually are very important for football. So I'm opening an academy in Shillong, a 15-acre academy where we want to get kids out of there from the age of 8, 9, 10, so we can get one Messi or Ronaldo in this world, from India, and that's my aim. So yes, owning a team for the sake of vanity doesn't exist in my scheme of things. Because again, I'm not that actor who's going to sit with dark glasses in a stadium and just look around. No, I'm not going to do that. For eyeballs, I want to see results, which is why I'm doing that. Unfortunately, at this point of time, it's like in the news, it's disheartening, and it's really disappointing to know what's happening with Indian football right now. It's devastating. And for someone like me who's put in all his money, his life, his efforts into this, it breaks my heart. But I think hopefully everything will come back and we'll be good. So yes, football, fitness, animals, everything, they do define the kind of person I am. And films. So most important, football, fitness, films, everything. They're all very important to my ecosystem. But where films are concerned, um, like for example, I would find it very difficult to shoot with animals. Just to give you an idea, because I wouldn't want to see an animal go through stuff like that. So I've left a lot of films because I don't want to see animals hurt. It's not to make a point or to make a statement to something, but it hurts me. So things like that I wouldn't do. I wouldn't endorse brands or products that I feel are dangerous to humankind. It's just value systems and where you come from. Does that mean that what the others are doing is wrong? No, it does not mean. It's just my choice. It's just a choice I've made, and I operate that way, and I'm happy that way.
Thank you so much.
John, just to take Rinku's first question a bit forward, we were talking about theatres and OTT. Amir Khan recently launched a Sataris on YouTube as So, what do you think of that model? I mean, is it something you're watching closely?
I think Amir is a flag bearer for some of us that said, listen, films need to be on screen for a longer period of time on the large screen. So I understand that YouTube is a great disruptor, so that's great. But I question the window. I'm confused. So I don't know what to think about it. I've just been hit by a truck. So I guess I'll wait and think about it and ponder about it and wonder whether someone else has to take up that flag at this point of time. But yeah, I think it's a disruptor and I think he's done something very differently. So kudos to him. And I think you've got another platform that people would kind of be vying for tomorrow, saying, okay, if not XYZ, then you have another platform. And that's great. So it gives us another option. It's fantastic.
John, hi.
Hi.
Shiny. I have two questions. One is, I think if I recall right, there's a dialogue in Madras Cafe where the journalist says that just because I criticize what's happening, it doesn't make me international. So, do you see that as a kind of a statement that you were making, or rather the film is making, to say that just because you criticize what the government is doing or the regime is doing in the country, that you are seen as, a outsider? And the way that our films also show this, that Pakistan is always the outsider, or somebody who's from a particular religion is an outsider. So that's one question. The second thing is, since your mom is from Iran, and Iran has such a different history, and it's so different from what we see Iran today. So, do you have stories of that your mom has told you?
Yeah, so I'll probably take your second question first because it's easier, and then I'll ask you to repeat your first one. So my mom's got 21 cousins in Iran. Yeah, so in a place called Yazd in Shiraz. You've been there? Oh, it's got the oldest fire temple in the world. Yeah, so it was always my dream to take mom there. Unfortunately, mom's got dementia, so it's probably the most heartbreaking thing to also see. It's really heartbreaking. I think the interesting story is that my mom can speak a lot of Farsi. So when you travel abroad and you go to another country and you want to say something that you don't want a foreigner to, you speak in your own language, right? So my mom would break out in Farsi and okay, mom, she'd break out in Farsi to give me some code words that she wants to kind of get across. And I think the most beautiful thing that I did was, I think, learn the language or relearn a lot of the language just for the film. And it's a beautiful language, Farsi. And I'm very happy I did it in the rightest possible way. And in Tehran, if you see the villain in Tehran, he's an Iranian. And he was also, off the camera, he was my coach. So I could land the dialect exactly and perfectly. So we didn't want to go wrong on that because we knew this film will travel. We're hoping this film will travel, so you don't want to go wrong with that. Outside of that, I mean, you guys know better than I do, but I think Iran is probably the most misrepresented country in the world. And culturally, they're so rich. Artistically, they're so fantastically rich. Film-wise, you get some of the most beautiful films out of Iran. So, and I mean, I can just keep going on about Iran. Of course, the actors in our film also were not actually, they were not pro-regime. Obviously, that's why they were in our film. And they didn't live in the country. So, and a bit of trivia in the film, the Israelis played the Israelis, right? And the Iranians played the Iranians. But we all had food together and everything was fine. There was no problem. So, when you see stuff like this, you wonder what's happening in the world. And our friend changes the tariffs every now and then. So, till I don't know whether he's changed it again after the last 8 hours. It's at 50% only. Oh, okay. Okay. Like they say, America being a friend as an adversary is dangerous. America being an enemy. America being an enemy is dangerous. America being a friend is fatal. So you don't know which side they'll go. Obviously, I've had my views on Russia, Ukraine, in all my conversations. But it's been beautiful, this journey. So that's the Iranian part of it. The first question you asked was, I'm sorry, was...
Madras Cafe, and to say that, where the journalist says that just because I criticize doesn't make me an international person or doesn't make me non-Indian. So my question was that quite often in our films, we always have a particular community, or we have, it's always a Pakistani person who is the enemy.
Yeah.
So my question is, that was that a very definite, a statement you were making in the film?
Yeah, if you see, I'll probably answer this question differently. If you see the Diplomat also, and we're talking about Pakistan in question in the Diplomat, we've shown the good and the bad there. We've shown good people do exist there. We show the judiciary system there was fantastic to let this girl go. If you ask me, one of the heroes of the Diplomat was the Judge Niazi. So we've shown both sides, and I think that's very, very important. You've got to be honest to your process, which is why I said at the start of this, when we had this conversation, I said what's really dangerous is that, there's certain radical views that are finding massive audiences. And that is, I would say that's really, really scary. So it's important for us as filmmakers, for us as actors, to get the right message across. And I want to believe, okay, let me put it this way. I want to believe that India is a very, very secular country. And I do believe we're a fantastic democracy. I do believe we're a fantastic democracy. And I want for us to stay that way, and I want us to maintain that fabric. You are going to hear voices, but I think we need to shut those voices down by doing the work that you want to do. So as filmmakers and as human beings and as people, be it journalists or be it actors or be it producers, citizens, we have to say the right things. That's very, very important. Very important in our daily life, because we're not models anymore. We're all role models. And you've got a platform. You as a journalist has a platform. Me as an actor, I've got a platform. So we've just got to be very honest with our processes. Don't lose that. Commercial success will come and go. You'll be critiqued in a particular film. If the film's good or bad, acceptable. But as people, don't disintegrate as people. Keep your value systems alive. That's what I hope. I am, at the end of the day, I'm my father and my mother's son. So whatever said and done, we don't. And I say this on record: we don't bribe, we don't cheat, we don't keep black money, we don't do things that are against our own fabric. So we're happy. We're happy. We can sleep well in the night. Yes, you make 2 rupees less. It's okay. It's absolutely fine. And the same thing goes for films. If someone gives me a film today that's a proposal that would be a commercial success, as opposed to a film that I believe could probably give me a lot more credibility, I'll do the one that gives me a lot more credibility. But that's my choice. And can I go wrong in that? Yeah, I could go horribly wrong in that. But at least I'll make an attempt to do it right. That's very important. Yeah.
Just to add to that, John, at the press conference when Pathan was released, Shah Rukh Khan said with you and Deepika Padukone that it's Deepika's Amar Akbar Anthony. Yeah. So that is the film industry in one line, and that is India perhaps in one line. Yeah. But do you sometimes feel that occasionally that idea is under assault or is kind of framed?
No, I don't think it. There's no secret about the fact that we're making our views very clear as actors and directors. So, yeah, a lot of us pretend to be secular. That's good. That's very good. And as long as we pretend, it's also very good. And people who don't get the fact that we pretend, it's even better. So that's the way I put it. But everybody's entitled to their views, and everybody has a view, and so do filmmakers. And if they have a particular view, then so be it. In the name of being secular, you just can't be making, films that could possibly be controversial. But there are films that are openly, biased, that are finding an audience, and that's what's worrying. That's what I'm trying to say. So there's a difference between the two.
Hi, I'm Evinder. So you said, that India is not really the good guy in Tehran and as portrayed in the movie.
Correct. Yeah.
So did you face any regulatory or censor
Yeah.
hurdles because of that?
Absolutely.
And do you think that is a reason why the film is not getting a theatrical release?
Yeah, I'd go on record and say I'd give all credit to the Ministry of External Affairs for viewing this film and for passing it. Because they've been fantastic. Honestly, if it wasn't for them, this film wouldn't have been passed. So really, and I go on record saying that they've really been fantastic, because this is a kind of film where you get into it with your eyes open. You know what you're trying to do, and when you see the film, you won't particularly find anything controversial except for what's really happening in the world. So yes, we did face a lot of hurdles, but that's the idea, right? When you want to do something creative, when you want to make a statement, when you want to do something that you believe is different, you are going to face some amount of restriction, and that's absolutely okay. That goes with the territory, and we're okay with that. There's, like I'm saying, I'm not wearing it on my sleeve. I'm not complaining. It's absolutely fine. And honestly, they've been really supportive, so it's great for us.
I think, John, you also have something called, you produced a Malayalam film. You also have a writer's, what is it, the writer's?
Yeah, so I think, at least as of today, I think the best films in this country come from the Malayalam film industry. I mean, if you ask me who my favorite actor is, I'd say Mohanlal. By light years, I love Meryl Streep also. So, but yeah, so what I decided was, see, the industry there is very brave. You look at Mammootty playing a politician, and then you find out that in the film that he's gay. It's brave for that man to do a film like that. So I thought that maybe I could borrow from some of their ideas. So what I did was I set up a writer's room in Kerala. And I said, listen, let's generate ideas out of there and see films that could be made nationally or films that could be made only in Malayalam. So I want to produce more Malayalam films, but I want to make all kinds of films. But it's the right time to make good Malayalam films, because they're fantastic. Yeah. Yeah, sure.
I have to, sorry, I'm taking the mic again, but I have to run because it's a Friday and I have films.
Oh, all the best. What do you have today?
Multiple films, but today something called Sorry Baby. It came out in Sundance. And
oh, lovely.
Yeah.
All the best.
So one other thing which I had in my mind is that when we're talking about films in the last few years, and they've been solidly backed by propaganda. I'm just wondering whether we can, filmmakers like you or other people you are saying, the pretend secularists or actual serious secularists, can take that space that has been ceded. Can it come back, do you think?
Absolutely. One word answer, absolutely.
What makes you so sure about that?
I know the industry. I know people out there. There's hope. There's hope. There are very good people in this industry. And I speak for the industry as a face of the industry. There are very secular, fantastic people here that want the best for films, that want the best for society, that want the best for the country. So I have a lot of hope and a lot of faith. And you'll see it coming in the next few years. Mark my words.
Thank you.
One last question, yes.
I hope I'm doing justice to my, okay. Just tell me if I'm kind of Bye. Bye. All the best.
This is on a lighter note. Right concluding note, you mentioned
Yeah.
fitness, right?
Yeah.
And you're also a vegetarian. So a lot of us would like to know whether you can build your body and
No,
fitness
predominant-
with plant proteins and
Yeah.
all. So everybody here is looking for some tips from you.
Yeah. Again.
And especially whether 40 plus can also start.
Yeah. Absolutely. So I'll tell you. So I'll start by saying this, Divya. Divya, right? Rinku. Sorry, Rinku. Divya. Divya. Hi. So I'll start by saying this. My training partner, the lady who trains with me in the gym, is a 74-year-old woman, stage 2 cancer. Okay. Comes back, obviously, after a chemotherapy session, she has to go into remission for a bit, comes back and trains with me. So the point I'm trying to make is there is no age to get fit. There's really no age. It's a mindset. Sounds very cliche. It's a mindset. There are a lot of women who feel post-menopause life is over and I just can't do it anymore. No, please throw that out of your head. You can get fit at any point of time in your lives. And most of the people I train with or I give advice to is women. So very contrary to the image I have, again, of, that I hang around with only WhatsApp dudes, I don't. And I'll say this, I mean, Peru's here, she's with me, she works with me, and you can ask her, all the time I just speak about living a good life. If you want longevity, quality of life, you've got to eat the right things, think about the right things, think about the right things, eat the right things, be very, very disciplined. And a lot of people come up to me and say, oh, our work is so intense and we have no time to work out. And I, especially some of these men, and I say, you have a girlfriend? They say, yeah. I say, you take out time to meet her? They say, yeah. I say, think of your body as your girlfriend. Think you're having an affair with your body. You'll find the time to take enough time out. And this goes for men, women, everyone alike. And in terms of dietary habits, you need to call me on another day for 24 hours and I'll give you the, I mean, honestly, I think I'm in a position to give you good enough advice where you could change the trajectory of your health, which is very important. I respect that. I respect you've asked me that question. Plant proteins, can they suffice? Yes, but not completely. I'm not an expert. I'm sure there are many dietitians out there who probably know much more than I do. But I think it's a combination of good sleep, good exercise, and good food. It's a tripod stand. Without one, you collapse. So just do everything in a healthy balance and you'll find your way. As simple as that. I mean, that's the shortest possible answer that I've given on fitness. So you have to pardon me for that. But
Thank you so much, John.